Good evening, everyone. We are live, and I'm David Neff, the head moderator of DebateArt.com, and we are back with another live debate. I am debating Blamonkey again, and tonight's resolution is resolved. The U.S. Uh, my notes real quick. Uh, uh, I just lost my notes. So tonight's topic is. I just lost my notes. Resolved, the United States federal government should permit the use of financial incentives to encourage organ donations. I will be affirming the resolution, and Blamonkey will be negating. Speed Race will be keeping the time and making sure everyone stays cordial and respectful. The structure of this debate is a Lincoln Douglas debate, and you can find the structure in the description below. The affirmative will have 6 minutes to construct his case. Then the negative will have 3 minutes to cross-examine me, and then we'll have 7 minutes to give his constructive and rebuttal. 3 minutes, I will be able to cross-examine Khan. 4 minutes, my rebuttal and defense, and then 6 minutes, Khan has his rebuttal and defense, and then 3 minutes, I have a rebuttal and defense, and that will conclude the debate for tonight. So Speed, when you are ready with the timer, let me know. He will be announcing when we have 1 minute left remaining on our time.
Okay, I have a timer ready.
Okay, so let me know when you start the timer.
Okay, and timer has been started.
Okay, awesome. So tonight I will be affirming the resolution that the United States should allow financial incentives to give organ donations. Before I begin, I would like to provide some basic definitions. Should, used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness. Encourage, help, or stimulate an activity to develop. Organ donations, the process when a person allows an organ of their own to be removed and transplanted into another person, whether they be alive or dead. Common transplants includes kidney, heart, liver, pancreas, intestine, lungs, bone marrow, skin, and corneas. And this debate is definitely talking about live donations, live donors. And the value that I wish to present is the value of autonomy. Autonomy is the right to govern oneself without unwanted outside interference. The criteria for which I judge this value is the mantra, my body, my choice. In legal terms, if there is no victim, then there cannot be any crime. If I were to sell a bottle of water and my opponent purchase it, it's a voluntary exchange of goods. Similarly, I believe that the ability to get financial incentives to donate your organs is well within this ethical framework and is no different. Next, the plan. I believe in a multifaceted approach. When I sign up for a driver's license, there's an option to donate your organs. The government could incentivize people to donate by giving them money to do so when they sign up for their driver's license. Additionally, insurance companies and patients could be incentivized by allowing people to buy and sell their organs. So the insurance company could pay the donor. And moreover, we should have a universal health care in place so that anyone who needs a transplant can get one without the market being dominated by the wealthy. Next, let's look at the problem. Here are some statistics according to organdonor.gov. There are over 112,000 people on the wait list as of March 2020. Only 39,719 transplants were performed in 2019. 20 people die every day while waiting for transplants. 90% of adults support organ donations, but only 60% sign up. Every 10 minutes, another person is added to the wait list. Only 3 in 1,000 people die in a way that would enable donations, and one donor can save 8 lives. According to Hopkins Medicine, a living donor for a liver transplant spends about 7 days in the hospital recovering and will have 6 to 8 weeks to fully recover. This recovery time means that someone who will be out of work for nearly 2 months, unless you have a job that will pay you, then that is 8 months out of work. This deters people from being living donors. I myself am one of them. If I had the opportunity to donate, I would be more hesitant because of the significant financial loss that I will take. If I were to have a financial incentive, I would be far less hesitant about donating. And then subpoint B is a black market. Because organ selling is illegal, this creates a black market. Anytime someone is anytime something is criminalized, a black market forms to distribute these items. People often turn to black markets as a last resort. Because the black market is not regulated, people are often harmed from these transplants. If we legalize selling organs, the black market will be crippled. Evidence: Iran is the only country that legalizes the selling of organs. The result is that Iran has no waiting list for organs. A paper in the Clinical Journal of the American Society writes, um, currently, Iran has no renal transplant waiting list, and over 50% of patients with ESRD in the country are living with a functioning graft. In developed countries, the severe shortage of transplantable kidneys has forced the transplant community to adopt new strategies to expand the kidney donor pool. However, compared with the Iranian model, none of these models has the potential to eliminate or even alleviate steadily worsening renal transplant waiting lists. Finally, there is no moral difference between selling plasma, which is already legal, and selling a kidney. I can walk into a plasma donation center and get paid. So why shouldn't I allow to go in and sell a kidney or a liver and get financial incentive to do so? So, in summary, organ selling should be legal as it would alleviate the problem of transplant shortage, eliminate the black market, and finally, there is no moral difference between selling plasma, which is perfectly legal, and selling a kidney or a liver. Thus, I conclude my case and I stand by ready for cross examination.
And for record, there's a minute and 20 seconds left.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. I'm whenever you it's ready. Speed race. Just tell me when to start questioning when you start the timer.
Yes, timer has been started.
Okay. You talk about the possibility of a universal healthcare system, but you give no details on how it's going to be implemented. Isn't this far outside the scope of debate as is?
I wouldn't say so. This is basically to diffuse any argument that it benefits the wealthy, and a universal health coverage.
Sure, but
pretty much,
we're given no idea of how it's going to be funded, how it's going to be covered, anything like that. So, like, isn't this like a separate debate for a separate time? This, to me, seems very extra topical.
sure, it is definitely extra topical. I would definitely agree with you, but again, that's basically to diffuse any potential argument on your part, saying that doing this would just benefit the wealthy.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's talk about the black market. The black market, is it going to exist regardless of whether we give a legal market or not?
Yes, so by legalizing it, it would cripple the market, just like what we saw with alcohol during Prohibition. There was a black market for the alcohol, and once Prohibition was finished, the black market pretty much crippled. And as I mentioned in my case, the black market is unregulated, and there are a lot of health complications from these black market donations, and many people get sick and die because of them. And if we were
Is
to
there
legalize this, people would be less likely to choose a black market, and would be more likely to choose the market that is regulated.
okay? How much is what is the fair market value, say, of a kidney?
So on the black market, I believe it's probably about $50,000 to $60,000, and that's the black market rate. Again, it's all about the law of supply and demand. When you have a white market, there will be it will certainly be a lot less, and I can't say exactly what the fair value would
1
be.
minute left.
But again, that is something that could be decided by the insurance companies and all of that.
Okay, but what is it? Okay, but what is the overall impact of a black market? I just want to get, why is a black market inherently bad?
The black market is inherently bad because the black market is significantly harmful to the human traffickers who are their victims, and the people who are desperate turn to these black markets and oftentimes get very sick and even die from.
Oh, it's exploitative. It's
Yes,
exploitative,
exactly.
right?
The black market is exploitative for both the human trafficker and the buyer.
Is it exploitative in a legal market, would you say?
No, it would not be, because it will be a voluntary transaction, just like selling my plasma. There's nothing exploitive about that.
Okay. Mr. Speed Race, I'm done with that. I don't know if there's any time left, but we can just.
Yeah, you have like 5 seconds left.
Okay, we're not going to worry about that. When you start the timer, just tell me to go, and I will go and do my case, which is next.
All right, and timer has been started.
Thank you very much. So value utilitarianism in today's debate. That's because utilitarianism asks us to look at every single impact and not just a few, and thus offers a more holistic analysis of any given policy option. And the only way we can weigh this sort of thing is a cost-benefit analysis, which looks at the pros and the cons of a given policy option to the people, and that's going to be how we choose whether a policy is good or not. Let's analyze pros plan under this. First, negate because the resolution harms low-income organ donors. The poor are more likely to require financial resources. As a result, they will see this opportunity as a momentary fix for their hard financial times. However, compensating them for their organ donation increases the chance that they suffer lifelong debilitating health effects. The medical journal PLOS 1 in 2018 estimates that representation among the poor in organ removal would double if they were given $75,000 in compensation, which is estimated to be the fair market value of a kidney, which is one of the most popular donated organs. A 2006 meta-analysis from the Annals of Internal Medicine looked at 48 studies comprising of 5,000 patients and found that diastolic blood pressure increased by 5 millimeters of mercury due solely to kidney donation. This infinitesimal increase is actually quite important. The British Medical Journal concluded after looking at data from 147 controlled medical trials that a decrease of 5 millimeters of mercury in diastolic blood pressure translates to a 41% reduction in stroke probability. This said, most healthy adults are able to survive an increase in blood pressure with minimal impact on their overall life. At most, the BMJ finds that organ donation decreases the donor's lifespan by roughly 1 year, and 1 to 5% of average age current donors would develop end-stage renal disease, aka kidney failure. The poor, however, are more likely to suffer adverse health conditions because of their organ donation, so the impact is magnified under the resolution. Let me explain. The journal Advances in Chronic Kidney Disease in 2012 outlined the many risk factors that contribute to adverse health conditions post-organ removal. One of the things they found is that Hispanic and Black donors were at twice the risk of severe kidney complications when compared to their white counterparts post-organ removal. The reason? Poor health conditions prior to donation mixed with the fiscal realities of being poor. The Clinical Journal of American Society of Nephrology found that nearly 15% of Black and 17% of Hispanic donors in 2008 were without health insurance. Those under 200% of the poverty line are more likely to be obese and smoke regularly per the Commonwealth Fund. The British Medical Journal considers these risk factors when calculating the overall risk of a post-organ removal operation. Since poor people are more likely to donate, expect high-risk donations to increase. This has two vital impacts that need to be discussed. First, people are less likely to accept high-risk donations to begin with. 1 out of 5 deceased organ donors are already classified as high risk, and patients are less likely to utilize high-risk organs despite availability. It is estimated that high-risk status prevents 313 transplants from happening every year, according to the University of Michigan's Health Lab in 2017. The number of high-risk organs increased exponentially due to the opioid crisis and changed the medical criteria. So the number is impacted by surges in high-risk donors. This takes a bite out of pros offense. If high-risk organs are predominantly offered to potential recipients, fewer organs will be utilized. Data from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration found that in 2011, over a third of the 19 million people who failed to receive substance abuse treatment cited problems with cost. Couple that with the previously mentioned health issues, obesity and smoking, it seems that the poor are more likely to have their organs are less likely to have their organs actually find their way to a recipient because they're high risk. People don't want high risk organs. But second, poor people are going to suffer execrable health consequences at a faster rate. It's easy to see dollar signs instead of poverty, and the poor will sell organs to get themselves out of poverty. Not only will this harm individual poor people, it will lead to higher utilization of healthcare services and more hospitalizations. A 3A hospital stay costs $30,000 according to the government's healthcare website, which is a significant burden on those already in poverty who are unlikely to have insurance. Even when kidney failure or death doesn't occur, there are unexpected complications that can manifest post-operation. Jeff Moyer and Vicki Young, 2 donors, tell NPR in 2012 that they experienced searing pain that was not alleviated after their donation. Furthermore, the NPR article notes that the United Organ Sharing System fails to keep track of live donors and their complications. The gap of data means that we don't know exactly how many people are actually harmed due to organ donation. And that concludes my constructive case. Now on to rebuttals. So first, he talks about the value, which is autonomy, and he talks about the criterion, which is my body, my choice. Let's look at overall impacts, because if there is a significant harm, which there definitely is, associated with organ donations, as I said, that needs to be factored into the debate as well. We can't just talk solely about autonomy. The poor are exploited. He admitted in cross-examination that that is a problem, exploitation. That's what his entire black market point is about. But secondly, let's talk about that black market point, because he doesn't really explain what it means. Black market is important. Why? He never explains how big it is in the United States, why it's a significant issue. He never even provides evidence of exploitation or severe complications. But what we are going to be doing is increasing the risk to the poor under the affirmative plan. Not everyone has access to the black market donations, and there is legal deterrence that prevents people from going to the black market to begin with. He never explains this. It's basically fails on impact. He also talks about the universal health care, which is far outside the scope of the debate. He never mentions a funding mechanism or any sort of application or anything like that. Again, he admits in cross-examinations it's extra topical. Excise this from the debate. It doesn't mean anything. He doesn't offer it even at administration. But let's talk about one more barrier that prevents these organs from being utilized, and that's organ procurement organizations. Organ procurement organizations are essentially the intermediary between someone who died and the person who receives an organ. And according to UPenn data, out of the 58 organ procurement organizations that exist, more than 50 of them fail to procure at least 50% of potential organ donors. So we're seeing a lot of people just being precluded entirely from the process, even if they have viable organs to give up.
One minute.
1 minute? And one of the reasons for that is because of the high-risk organ donations that I talked about before, but another is that they're flagrantly abusive. The Tribune Review in 2011 found that the 58 OPOs gained $1 billion in revenue and are very heavily subsidized by the Center for Medicaid Services. However, they offer a lot of improper documentation. They spent money on minor league baseball games, private planes, money spent on family members, i.e. nepotism, Rose Bowl tickets. These are all essentially illegal purchases. But for more than 20 years, not a single contract was lost with any of these OPOs. That's after one California-based OPO actually prevented an investigation into the death of somebody and prevented and also prevented the LA Times from looking into their business operations. And also when two executives from an Alabama-based OPO threatened to kill somebody and had a highly illegal payback scheme. Negate.
All right. Wow.
Did you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sure. So this is where I begin to cross-examine you, I believe. So 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. Speed race. Let me know when you start the timer.
Sorry, I was muted. Already?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Sorry.
All right, sure. So you want to talk about the corruption in the OPOs. Why is there corruption in the OPOs?
Right now, because they self-report all their data. They're not actually there's no actual oversight. So that's one of the reasons they get away with a lot. And they're also heavily subsidized by the Center for Medicaid Services, and they haven't gotten rid of a contract in 2 decades. That's a lot.
Yeah. So shouldn't we try and get that fixed? Why hasn't there been any outcry for this?
Actually, there has. In fact, there's a proposed rule that would shut down about 37 of them from receiving funds at this point. It was a recent proposal. It hasn't been finalized. But if it did, 37 of those OPOs would be shut down. So any increase in organs are going to be completely precluded from finding their way to the people because 37 of them, or like 2/3, are shut down.
Right. So can't there be other ways other than OPOs, such as having a government thing to be free from corruption?
Okay, so if you're talking about your universal health care plan, which has not been specified, has not been given a funding operation or anything like that, maybe, but you have to specify that in your first case, because if you keep on making arguments to nullify what I'm saying, like by specifying your plan later, that's just flagrantly unfair and abusive. It's against normative debate ethics according to like NSDALD rules. So.
Okay, so now let's look at the value of utilitarianism. So utilitarianism says you have the greatest for the greatest good.
Maximizing good, minimizing harm.
Okay, sure. So let's say we have a baby, and every time you hit the baby, 20 million people get $10 million. Is that good or bad? According to utilitarianism, it's the
it's good. Okay, but when we're talking about policy decisions, it's different than hitting a baby. You can make contrivances for any sort of abstract idea or principle and see something as unjust. But I'm talking about when we're making policy, we look at the maximizing the good and minimizing the harm. That is the duty of government. That's why they get collected tax dollars. Yours is overly restrictive.
All right, so sure, you talked about the poor and that people don't really want these high risk donors, but then you said that the poor people who are the high risk donors are more likely to be exploited. Don't you see that as a contradiction?
No, I'm saying that under this plan, what's going to happen is that more high risk donors are going to give, and that's going to lead to health complications.
But
And a
there's
lot
no.
of those organs are going to be thrown out. In fact, I believe if I looked at the UPenn data, I'll tell you 1/5 of kidney donations are thrown out because they're high risk. They're very risk averse. They don't want a medical malpractice suit in their hands, so they don't want to give
Right.
somebody.
So so are the high risk people donating, and then they're and then the
That's time.
okay. Okay, George, should I finish my last question?
If it's okay, I'm just going to let you finish your last question, and we'll be done.
All right, sure. The obvious question is: are they the high risk donors, the people that are rejected? Do they donate the kidney first and then they are rejected, or are they just rejected during the pre-screening process?
So some are rejected during the pre-scanning process, but after the organs are collected, they're also thrown out. And many people who are patients are consulted beforehand, saying, "Hey, we have an organ for you, but it's it's from someone with HIV, or it's from someone who is obese, or it has all these health implications beforehand, or someone who injected drugs into them." And
Okay.
that's when it's also denied.
All right. Cool.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, start.
All right, sure, awesome. So as I was saying earlier, there is a Khan uses the value of utilitarianism. And once again, let's look at the statistics that I found. Over 112,000 people are on the wait list. Only 39,719 transplants were performed in 2019. 20 people die every day while waiting for these transplants. 90% adults support organ donations, yet only 60% sign up. Every 10 minutes, another person is added to the wait list. Only 3 in 1,000 people die in a way that would enable donations, and only one donor can save about 8 lives. So about the value of utilitarianism that Khan presents, excuse me, I believe that the cost-benefit analysis would actually be towards the side of allowing financial incentives. Now, during my opponent's rebuttal, I made the following contention that there. Excuse me, I lost my place. Excuse me, just 1 minute. All right, sure. So, as I mentioned, these statistics, and there are a lot of people who are unable to donate because they will be out of work. It takes about 2 months to fully recover, and if you don't have income for 8 months, you're less likely to be willing to donate. And I am one of them. And Khan completely drops his point. So please extend this across the board. And finally, about the black market, I already did mention why the black market is exploitative. And about the evidence, Khan never really touches on the evidence that I cited from Iran, because they have a system in place, and I quoted again from the Journal of American Society of Nephrology. Iran has basically no renal transplant lands, and over 50% of patients are currently living with functional grafts, and and there is no severe shortage of the transplantable kidneys because of the policies that Iran has put in place. Khan never really touched on this in his rebuttal, so please extend this across the board. And as I mentioned, the quotes that I said, that none of these approaches have even the potential to eliminate or alleviate steadfastly worsening conditions. Finally, again, I asked in my affirmative case that there's no moral difference between selling plasma and selling a kidney. So I would like to know what the moral difference is, and and Khan, I believe, completely drops that point as well. So please extend that across the board. How much time do I have left?
1 minute.
All right, sure. So once again, let's look at his claim that Hispanic poor people will be hurt. As he said earlier, the people who are high risk, namely the poor, are more likely to not be wanted. So again, I see that kind of as a contradictory statement, that they will be exploited more, while most of them are going to be rejected during the pre-screening process. So with that, I conclude my rebuttals.
All right. Well, do you mind if I take 30 seconds of prep time?
Go right ahead. Take as much time as you want.
All right, Speed Race, tell me when I'm up, and I'll begin. And actually make it 45 seconds.
It's been 45 seconds. Do you want more time?
Nope, I'm actually ready when you are, so just tell me when to begin.
Okay.
Now?
No, I have to set the timer just to.
Okay.
And
Did you say now? I didn't hear you.
wait, did you start?
No, I wanted. Did you say
Did
now?
you hear me say?
No, I didn't hear you say that. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so when you reset it and started,
Can you hear me?
yeah, just give me
Yeah,
now.
go ahead and start.
Gotcha. All right. So first, we're going to talk about framing in today's debate because he ultimately doesn't offer a very good rejection of utilitarianism. He provides this one particular idea and cross-examination of hitting a baby. But again, we're talking about a policy. In the context of today's debate, utilitarianism is supreme. He offers this other idea of autonomy, but it's overly limited. Whether or not, and he also talks about the idea that if people aren't harmed and it's a victimless crime, it doesn't matter. Well, if people are going to be sacrificing themselves for money, that is a legitimate harm, particularly if it's poor people. But secondly, let's talk about the 112,000 people on the wait list. Now, he talks basically throughout the entire debate about this one offense point of getting more organs for the people, but it's hampered by two significant barriers that are never addressed under his plan. First off, OPOs fail to secure organs. I talked about how many of them, over 50 of them, basically secure less than 50% of potential donors. That means a lot of people aren't going to be getting the organs they need. But secondly, high-risk donations are also a problem. As I just mentioned, a lot of the organs are thrown out after they've been procured. He talks about how people don't want these organs, and thus, they're going to be screened out. But that's not always the case. When people do give live organ donations, it has the potential for kidneys to be thrown out as well. After people die, they can have those organs thrown out as well. In places like South Carolina, according to that UPenn evidence, 28% of potential organ donations are found. Only 28%. That leaves the majority of them in people's bodies, not finding their way to actual recipients. But let's also talk about the black market. He offers no statistic. He offers this Iran evidence, essentially saying that Iran's policies are the reason that they have no wait list. But Iran's policies could span a whole bunch of different ones. They obviously have a slew of policies, and we don't know if it's specifically because they allow for the selling of organs. He never even talked about Iran's black market. Do they not have a black market? I guess he said that at the beginning, but at the same time, is it because of their policies? Is it because their police is better? Iran's policies is too general a statement. He never proves a direct causal factor. He drops his universal healthcare point, never really explains it, never really even gives a funding mechanism of how we're going to pay for it, because it's obviously a giant, giant program. He can't just like sidestep this problem. If he's not going to specify it, don't let him have it in today's debate. He also talks about not the poor don't want the donate, or they don't want the organs, or they do want the organs. The fact of the matter is people's donations can be thrown away, and they often are. The UPenn evidence I gave, 1/5 of kidney donations are thrown away. He never refutes the health harms that the poor are going to suffer, extended across the debate, and then he finally talks about plasma. Look, it's okay, like, people donate plasma. I'm not saying it's morally wrong or right to donate plasma or anything like that. What we're talking about in today's debate is all organs. When all organs are considered, the low income are directly going to suffer. Don't let him get away with this throughout the entirety of today's debate. It's off topic. It's not garnering any offense. The only real offense point he has is increasing supply of organs, and again, that's heavily mitigated, and we have to weigh that against the preponderance of evidence about low-income people actually getting harmed. So on to voting issues. One, framing. You're obviously going to vote con here. He never really refutes utilitarianism. He tries to offer this contrived idea of what utilitarianism is, but under today's debate, it's different. Two, we're talking about the black market, which he obviously loses. He never actually explains the black market, and his only point does not prove direct causality. He talks about increasing. He never refutes my idea of low-income people being hurt, so that's a point in my favor. And then he talks about the increase in the supply of organs, which doesn't necessarily mean people are actually going to get organs to begin with. It's heavily mitigated. It basically doesn't happen. So yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to be voting in the negation. Thank you. Speed race. Do I have any more time, or is that it?
You have more time. You have 1 minute 45 seconds.
1 minute and 45 seconds. Then I'll go over. Then I'll go over. I guess the multifaceted plan approach that he talked about, and that's about buying and selling organs. Again, he never explains this either. He never explains how insurance agencies are going to buy these organs or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's ultimately a moot point anyway, because if he's not going to specify any of this, particularly in the first two speeches, then don't allow him to do so in the last one, because I'm not going to be able to respond. This is my last speech. Make Pro stick to his plan. And also, I have one more point concerning the another barrier is that, according to the American Kidney Organization, 20% of transplants every single year are retransplants of kidneys. So you're not going to be seeing a whole lot of. So you're still going to see demand surge, and you're still going to see a wait list in the future by necessity, because people are still going to need these organs in the future. And that really, there's nothing else to talk about. My opponent's case just basically fails.
All right.
How much time do I have left, by the way? Oh, well, for what? Oh, cross-examination, right? Cross-examination?
Say that again.
Cross-examination?
Oh, on the thing I'm given, there's no cross-examination between this speech and the last one.
For me, I thought this was like the rebuttal. This is kind of like my closing point, my 3-minute close.
Yeah, this is your closing point.
All right, can I have 45 seconds to prepare, since Blamonkey had his 45 seconds?
Yep.
No problem.
Start.
I'll be AFK for a second, by the way.
"45 seconds is up."
All right, great. Thank you. Let me know when you start the clock.
Ready?
I am ready. All right, so this was definitely...
I have the timer up, so...
Okay. Tell me when.
Okay, start.
All right, wow. This was a very difficult debate for me. One of the reasons, of course, is this is a devil's advocate debate on my end. I actually don't agree with the position that I'm actually arguing with in real life, so that makes it a little bit more complicated for the part of giving a decent case. But again, I guess what I'll do is just go over and just give a brief summary of all my points one more time. So, of course, I give the value of autonomy, the right to govern oneself, the non-body, my choice. People die every day while they are on the wait list. And, of course, the evidence from Iran shows that having the ability to buy and sell their donations can actually alleviate the free list. So with that, I really don't have anything else to say. So I guess I will conclude my case and conclude the debate from here. All right. Do you guys want to debrief? And do you want to do the debrief on camera, or do you guys want to debrief just between ourselves?
I'll leave it up to Speed Race because I have no preference.
All right. Speed Race doesn't have to be here if he doesn't want to.
If you don't want to. Speed Race, you there?
Hello, Speed Race. All right. Speed Race, can you hear me? All right. Well, it's over. So I'm probably just gonna remove him from the stream.
Okay, and then we could talk about it with him later if we want.
So, do you want to do the debrief on camera, or just?
If there's anyone in the chat, we'll do that. If not, then we don't worry about it.
All right. I don't think there's anyone watching right now. So, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully we'll be back next week for another debate. Please join debateart.com, and I look forward to hearing your comments, and I look forward to doing more live debates with Blamonkey and with other members of the site. All right. That concludes our evening broadcast. I will see you next week, hopefully.